morning. Today we are going to discuss the concept of overloading, one of the most important concepts of object oriented programming is overloading. One of the most important concept of classes or object oriented program is overloading. That means same function can be used to, that means here we have a number of methods with the same name. That means test without any parameters, test with one integer parameter, test with two integer parameters, and test with a double value. That means in a for a single class, in the same class can have different methods the same name. That means depending on the parameter type and parameter number of parameters, the system will automatically choose which method it has to execute. That is called overloading. That means same method or same function can be used for accomplishing a number of tasks. For example, here this is an example of overloading. Here this is a class overload, and in that we have four methods with the same name. Here test, and here this is having only, this is no parameters. Here we have only a single parameter, here we have two parameters, and here we have only one parameter. See, here we don't have any parameters, here we have an integer parameter, here we have two integer parameters, here we have a double parameter. That means here we have a class, and that class is having four methods with the same name. Okay, now I'm going to have an execution of this. That means class overload demo. This is the main class, and then we have public static void main, and I'm going to create an object of this. That means overload object is equal to new overload means an object of this type. An object is created, and we don't have any property, or we don't have any variables in it. We have only four methods in that without having any properties. So object method is there, and now I am going to call the first function ob.test with no parameters. Here ob.test means I have created an object, and in that the method test is called with no parameters. Then this function will be executed. That means here void test is the method signature. That means here when we are accessing and when we are calling this, here the Java runtime knows here test is called with no parameters, and in that case it will go for, it will execute this thing. That means it will execute and it will print nothing. Okay. Now, if ob.test is called with a parameter 5, here this is an integer parameter, and ob.test is called with an integer parameter, then definitely it will execute this. That means here this method signature of this and method signature this is same. So this will execute, and system note on one parameter and the parameter. That means it will display one parameter, and that parameter is 5. It will display one parameter 5. One parameter, and it is appending 5. Now ob.test is called with two parameters, two integer parameters, then the method signature is this one. So automatically this will be executed. That is param1. Param1 is, what is parameter 1? 10. Param2 15. And see, if ob.test is called with a single parameter. Here 6.0 is a double value. Here this is having a single parameter, this is also having a single parameter, but this is expecting an integer value, and unlike that here this is expecting a double value. So here we are passing this double value, then the Java runtime environment knows that this is the method which has to execute. Okay, that means that will be executed, and one double value, and after that 6.0 will be printed. So that is overloading. So this is a clinical example of how overloading can be done. That means overloading simply means you can have the same method name for different operations. Then depending on the number of parameters passed and depending on the return value as well, the correct uh, method will be executed, and it is the duty of the Java runtime environment to choose which method it has to execute. Okay, so I think the concept of overloading is clear to you. Now we are going to discuss how to overload constructors. Now we have been discussing how overloading can be done for methods, and as I told you, box this constructor is also a method, and constructor cannot return a value. That is the difference between method, constructor and a single method, and constructor is having the same name as well as the class name. And how to overload constructors. Here this is a class which called box, and in that you have three methods which is having the same name, box. Here this is not having any parameters, this is having a single parameter, and this is having three parameters. And this is, we are going to create a simple box, and in that case we are not going to initialize values. That is why height equal to -1, width equal to -1, and depth equal to -1. When an object is created with no parameters, that is, here we are creating a box b1 with no parameters. In that case, it is calling this parameter. That means actually the height, width and depth parameters are not initialized. In that case, they are initialized to -1. That -1 indicates that it is not initialized. Anyway, if somebody is using that like this, it won't create any error, and a new box is created, and that box is having sides -1, -1 and -1. And if it is called with a single parameter which is of type double, box double side. Double means it is expecting a double value. In that case, we are actually using a box which is a cube. If you have a cube, the height, depth and width are equal. So in that case, there is no need to pass all the parameters. Only a single size of a single side or length of a single side has to be passed. In that case, we are passing a single side, and height and width and depth are same length. Okay, so side is assigned, or height is assigned to side, width is assigned to side, and depth is assigned to side. And if you have a box which is having different dimensions, different height, width and depth are different, in that case you are going to pass those three parameters: height, width and depth. Okay, in that case it is assigning those values: height equal to h, width equal to w and depth equal to d. So when you are creating, see, these are box with a double parameter and box with a three double parameters, and this is actually, we are overloading constructor. When a box b1 is called, then as this is not having any parameters, this constructor will be called. If you are creating a box b2 and creating an object of type box which is having a single parameter, then it will call this. And if you are using this, that means creating a box object which is having three parameters, it will call this. Okay, and depending on the number of parameters, the constructor called will be different. And the last one is system dot b1 dot volume. b1 dot when b1 dot volume is called minus 1 into minus 1 into minus 1, minus 1 will be returned. And b2 dot volume, what is b2 dot volume? b2 dot volume is 5.2 is the side, so 5.2 into 5.2 into 5.2 will be calculated and that will be printed. And here b3 dot volume means b3 the size is 5 by 6 by 7, so 5 into 6 into 7, that will be displayed. So anyway, I think the concept of overloading constructors, I think now you are in a position to understand what you mean by constructor overloading. Okay.